Now, job losses or not, that is the biggest question as government allays fears of massive job cuts in the public sector going into the International Monetary Fund support program. The IMF, meanwhile, has cast serious doubt on Ghana's economic projections as it estimates overall real gross domestic product GDP growth of 4.5% for 2014, far below government's target of 7.1. So what does this mean to organized labor? What are the projections for growth ahead of what appears to be a negative economic outlook from ratings agency Fitch? My name is Stephen Enti, and this is today's big story. The government of Ghana began talks with the International Monetary Fund in mid-September on a possible IMF-supported program aimed at injecting confidence in the economy on the back of continuous depreciation of the local currency. The main opposition, New Patriotic Party, NPP, has expressed fears that several people will lose their jobs as part of IMF conditionalities to heal Ghana's ailing economy. However, government has rubbished that claim, arguing issues of job cuts have never surfaced during talks. Also, the IMF's team, led by Tujas Benati, at the end of the first phase of discussions, made a statement which got everyone thinking. He said, and I quote, "Ghana continues to face significant domestic and external vulnerabilities on the back of a large fiscal deficit, a slowdown in economic growth, and rising inflation. These vulnerabilities are putting Ghana's medium-term prospects at risk." Now, against that statement is also the fact that global ratings agency Fitch has placed Ghana's long-term foreign and local currency issuer default ratings at B with a negative outlook. The ratings agency also expects negotiations with the IMF to be protracted, with a deal expected maybe next year. So what does all these mean to job prospects and the future of the economy? Let's do some discussions now. I have with me in the studio Charles Opoku, is an economist. How are you, sir?
Thank you, sir.
Now, I know there's been a lot of speculation in the system with going into partnership with the IMF. Quickly, I need to get a fair understanding if you foresee, I mean, the statement by the IMF team lead didn't exactly spell out conditionalities like job cuts. But do you foresee that this has a potential of affecting jobs?
If you look at the statement they made, straight away you can deduce that there is that aspect. It is hidden in the statement. If you read the statement, if you permit me, I will just read one aspect of it. It says that the do's is that there should be a reduction in public sector wage cuts. There should be a reduction. Now, by the labor rules in Ghana, you cannot pick somebody and decide today that we have been paying you 5 cedis. But given circumstances, I'm going to pay you 4 cedis. It is not allowed. Therefore, the only way you can go by this statement of cutting down the wage bill is to bring about redundancy. So it is likely to go that way.
So despite the fact that government has come out clearly to say that there was no discussion of job cuts and etc., and that the future of jobs are more like secure despite the partnership, this is not exactly clear, right?
That is not the case. You remember when this idea of going to the IMF for a bailout came out, government denied that they had not been in talks with the IMF and they don't have that intention. So if at the end of the day we have now gone to the IMF for such a thing, then if something is coming out and you come out to even deny, can we have faith in you? That's a problem.
Right.
So the thing is that issue, this is not the first time. For them,
So let me ask you, what's your projection? You foresee that, one, because government cannot say that we are reducing wages, they'll rather cut back on jobs, like they'll stop employing or they'll dismiss people. What is it going to be? What is it likely to be?
There are three things involved. Number one is for government to say that let us go the easier way, so that we place some freeze on public sector employment. That is one way. You remember there is this.
And that's the easiest way out.
That's the easiest way out for government for now. But you have heard that.
Considering that election is around the corner,
we have been told that those teachers who are untrained, in quotes.
Yeah. Pupil teachers
are supposed to go. Now, government functionaries have come out to explain that they are not saying that everybody should go, but what they are saying is that they would like to employ those who have certificates, who are professionals. Now, when they finish, then they will look at whether there are vacancies. That's another way of looking at the issue. So, for me, that is a starting point. So that shows that government wants to do something like that. But because this year is 2014, we have only 2 years.
2 years.
So they are also looking at whether, if they decide formally that they are laying some workers off,
it might have a rippling effect on affecting the elections.
So they look at that.
Let me go back onto the telephone line and speak to Prince Granting, who is also an economist. Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Now, I mean, we are here discussing the likely implications of this IMF partnership with Ghana in terms of jobs. Now, our understanding is that although the statement didn't expressly state that jobs will be at stake, there is a condition which specifies that government should be reducing the public wage bill. What do you foresee in this, what appears to be a not so clear partnership that government is yet to confirm with the IMF?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, as you have rightly said, what they said is that they are recommending reduction in Ghana's comparatively high cost, public sector wage cost. So it means the options are open. It's not, they didn't say cut wages or lay off workers, or maybe just freeze further employment. So the government has this option. But as we are all looking at it, I don't expect government to cut wages because, you know, the labor unions will resist fiercely, and I wonder how government can manage that. And then what maybe they can do is to lay off unproductive or first efficiency. You know, God, they have all been talking about reducing ghost names and using software, so I think that is being done. But if there are some inefficient, some hang-ons and maybe loafers, maybe government may like to lay them off, but you don't just lay them off. But
which category of workers are you describing as hang-ons?
Yes, I'm talking about inefficient. You know, some public sector employment, sometimes, you know, we have government, related employees who are not really efficient or whatever. If we have such, then I think government will be advised to do away with them and structure them to incubation to get them into tabernetship and so on. You know, that is what I mean by this hang-on.
Right. Now, the IMF in the statement that it issued at the end of the discussions, first phase of the discussions, I must say, made some statements which got everybody thinking. For example, that GDP might hover around 4.3 or 4.2, contrary to the higher target of 7.1, which government set. This is negative, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. You know, government has projected something other than that. Even the mid-year budget review, even though they brought it down, but IMF, you know, since their release in May and so on, they are still saying that it will be lower than that. And I think I share that view because, you know, the challenges are enormous.
And Fitch, the global ratings agency, has also said that have actually downgraded Ghana's long-term foreign currency issuer ability or something. I've forgotten the real term. Now, they've downgraded it to B with an outlook of negative. Government would like us to believe that this is not exactly the case. What's your reaction to that?
Well, now we are seeing the CD gaining some value. But before then, and generally, you realize that the outlook was not too good. Our inflation has been on the high side, and then we are talking about the CD which was depreciating, but now gaining a little, value. And then we are talking about cost of living generally. So, and then the fiscal deficit, always going up, and IMF is also saying it's going to even be higher than government has anticipated. These are not positive things, until they are changed rapidly, which we don't expect a rapid change of this. I think it still can be described as negative.
Right. I'll have you hold, Prince Cranting. I'm joined on the line, the other telephone line, by Austin Game, who is a labor consultant. Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir, Mr. Game.
Good evening.
Now, were you part of the delegation which met the IMF team?
No, sir. I only participated in the friendship program and the whole program.
So you were part of the proposal for homegrown policies at Senchi, which government was hoping that it will be a bedrock of good negotiations with the IMF. So when you look at the homegrown policies that government had and taken to the IMF for deliberations, are you disappointed about what appears to be the statement that was put out by IMF on the discussions?
Well, I'm not too sure those who are advocating some kind of disappointment. IMF is a body that is supposed to be assisting member countries that would require it to be guided, because of its efficiency, let me call it so, and because of the respectability it has gained over the years in the international community. As soon as they accept to come into your existence domestically, you gain some respectability. Right. Your stability begins almost simultaneously, and thereafter they examine all these things. So I'm not too sure when something is examined, that should be described as disappointment. I'm not too sure.
Right. Mr. Ghana, you have been in the helm of labor for a long time. You were key, instrumental in the structuring of our labor laws. You know the reaction of labor when it comes to speculation that there is the potential of people losing their jobs, or there is the potential of freezing employment in any kind of conditionalities with the World Bank or the IMF. Do you see that it's going to be a bit problematic going into an agreement, let's say for a 3-year period, like the president is hinting that we might go into an agreement with the IMF for 3 years? Do you anticipate that this could be problematic when it comes to reducing the wage bill, which means cutting back on employment or freezing employment? Do you see that coming?
Yeah, I was a little worried when I began hearing these things from people who are supposed to know. These comments from either, whether it be a think tank or trade unions or whoever, it gets me surprised.
Why so? Why are you surprised? Yeah.
Yes, we have a labor law. We have best practices across the world, and I'm not talking about Africa. I'm talking about everywhere, including the United States, including Japan, including Germany, anywhere, including Ghana.
Right.
Our law is very clear. If you are an employer, you have the right to cease operation. In America, they even file bankruptcy and later come back in line. So it is not fair when only because IMF is saying it. Put IMF aside. The reality is that I can recommend this to anybody across the world. The point is that if you are an employer and you are a seasoned employer and you have work is ongoing, even very well, and your total labor cost is not meeting the cash flow as projected or estimated, the sensible thing to do is to cut off.
Downsize. So you are protected by law to make a decision to downsize. That's what you're saying.
Of course.
And so if government decides to cut jobs as part of conditionalities in strengthening the economy in the long term, it's not a big deal.
I don't think, and I don't want to believe that I as a consultant to many notable companies in this country, have assisted them to do redundancy. It's not heard in the public domain. If government as an employer employs people and they are overbloated by any stretch of imagination, the sensible thing to do is to lay off some of them.
To lay off some of them.
It doesn't make any difference at all.
Mr. Game, I'll hold you briefly. I will still have a guest in our studio, Charles Popo. You've heard the two arguments coming from Prince Kwante, who is an economist and a labor consultant. When you see these two contrasts, I mean, I won't call them contrasts, but from a labor standpoint, from an economic standpoint, you think there is hope?
Now, if you're listening to Mr. Austin Game, for the fact that he was part of those who proposed the homegrown policies, I am tempted to believe that he knows what is going on. And from the way he talked, he's only saying that you have the right to downsize.
You have the right to lay off.
You have the right to lay off. So that's
actually scary, isn't it? I mean,
is actually confirming
labor agitation.
what I thought was going to be the case, given the statement.
But he hasn't said expressly that government is going to downsize.
He hasn't said that.
If that becomes a conditionality, government shouldn't be afraid to take that path. That's what he's saying.
Well, how did we get to that point? That is where the problem is. For me, given where we are now, there are certain things we cannot do otherwise. But my point is, how did we get to where we are now? We have not been able to take certain bold decisions.
Which includes?
Which includes not employing people into places where they are already overbloated. It's a government institution. So who did that? Who did the employment? Every time you hear people talk about ghost names, who posed that there? Now, anytime we clean the so-called ghost names, if we still have them, who put them there? When have you heard that somebody has been called in to answer and to tell us how those names came on board? Because somebody did it. They did not migrate on their own. So we are not able to take those decisions. And that is where my problem is as an economist. For me taking a decision as an employer to downsize, that is your decision. But when you take it, there are implications. Because you cannot just lay off somebody. You have to pay the person off.
And that comes with huge financial burden. Prince Kwante is still on the line. Prince, let me wrap up with you. Looking at what's happening right now, I mean, I know that all of us are speculating. Government has not come out clearly to say they're going to lose X amount of jobs or they're going to put a freeze. We don't know that yet. But when we look at the statement from the IMF, we fairly deduce that this is what's going to happen. Do you foresee trouble coming ahead in the next few months if this is supposed to be the case? Austin Game has already told us that, look, I mean, any employer has the right to downsize. Do you foresee trouble ahead?
No, I wouldn't say trouble, but there are going to be challenges because, you know, as my friend in the studio has said, somebody placed them there and they applied and they have been taken. Now, it is, if you think they must go, just like Austin Game is saying, yes, you can tell them to go, but what are the social and economic effects? That's what we are talking about. And, you know, until you lay them off and then structure a certain way of engaging them in the private sector, that is fine. If not, you lead people to engage in social vices and social unrest. And these are the issues that we are talking about.
Right, Mr. Kwante, I'm afraid we don't have a lot of time. We will have to bring our discussion to a close. And quickly, I'll go to Austin Game. And Austin Game, I know I keep asking you, I mean, all the time when I talk to you about labor issues, I keep asking you, what should be the best route out? I mean, between what we have on our hand, the state of the economy and the measures that government is supposed to take and the response of organized labor. What should we draw the balance?
I appreciate what my brother said, you know, at the other side. I do not think he's saying anything bad, except that we have to put it in context.
We have to.
The point is that we don't have to go about semantics in this matter. Whether it is layoff, whether it is downsizing, whether it is redundancy, whatever it is, close down is close down, layoff is layoff, redundancy is redundancy.
That's what it is.
Whichever way it is. So any employer, and in this context, let's call the body here government as employer.
Yes.
Because government will not be there every day. So government as an employer has a right.
Yeah.
And by the way things have gone so far, the question of who put somebody there should not arise, because I have known doctors I've known teachers, I've known nurses who have left this country and their names were on the payroll at the ministry to the Accountant General's Department because I got to investigate and know it and have them deleted. So it is not about them there or who did not put them there.
Right.
It's about the wrong thing being done and people are conniving and having been paid, or people are siphoning money from government coffers into their private coffers until this is detected.
Right.
It takes a long time because we don't have kind of efficient human resource management system in place. This is the first line. In this case, what has been done for government to ensure that there are credible human resource management policies, and they have got desk officers in all the ministries and agencies, and those that have them, they must upskill their present status of which they do.
Right,
That's
Mr. Game.
causing the problem.
Mr. Game, we're grateful. We don't have a lot of time, but we'll pause you here. We're very, very grateful that you could make time for us. We're grateful to Prince Quantin also who joined us. Now, let's go to the Volta region where we understand that the POTA, the Polytechnic Students Teachers Association, have been accusing the rector of siphoning money, causing financial loss. Let's go there to Ho now and speak to the president of POTA, Edem Koku, to give us a quick update on what's happening there. So, Edem, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. And
now, you want your rector out. I am curious. I mean, what has he done this time?
Oh, he's on his way out already. He just has a day to be in office, but he should give a good account of himself as he leaves.
And good account means what? You suspect that he has been misappropriating funds?
In the 2012 audit, external audit shows that he and other key management staff benefited from salary top-up, which was funded from internally generated funds,
right?
Which is against the Financial Regulations Act.
I see.
To the tune of over 140,000 Ghana cedis.
You want him to refund that money?
Management letter that came, they were supposed to refund the money. None of these key officers has refunded any money, and he's on his way out, and his severance package is being prepared for him to take away without him paying back what he owes.
Right.
Aside that, the government policy on vehicles, the president said, no government official is to be given permission to take any government vehicle away. He, in arrangement with the council, has permission to take the vehicle away. And this is a vehicle that was bought in 2012 and was registered with 2011 number plates, just to make the new car look old, so that at the end of the day, he will take it cheap. The car was bought at 74,000 Ghana cedis, and they didn't pay for it.
Adam, let me ask you, these are very wild allegations. They bought a car in 2012 and registered for 2011. How could that be possible?
Yes. The director reported to the board of directors in the March meeting of the board, March 2012 meeting of the board, that he is expecting the vehicle in the country April 1st, 2012. When the vehicle got into the country, got onto our campus sometime in May thereabout, the vehicle was bearing a 2011, bearing GE 1911 number plate. And this morning he was on radio explaining how they took the chassis number from the seller and sent it to DVLA, and the registration number plate was ready before the vehicle came. And who does that if you don't have any ulterior motive?
So the long and short, Adam, I must ask you straight away, the long and short is that you suspect corrupt motives, and you want to refund the money that he received as part of his salary top-up, which was taken from the internally generated fund, like you told us, and also to return the car. Is there anything else you want from this man as he goes away?
He should return the car, because the car is worth more than the 74,000. They refused to pay for it, and an interest accumulated to the tune of 71,000 for the same car. Another car which was purchased for him, a Nissan pickup, for 53,000. The finance officer refused to pay for it.
Right.
it accumulated another 100,000 interest.
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense, indeed. Now, have you engaged? You
buy, you pay.
You buy, you pay. I understand, but I want to know whether you've engaged this man. I mean, you held a press conference today to raise these issues. Have you addressed him with these issues, and has he responded anyway?
I was in that same board meeting with him when he spoke to these matters. That these vehicles were bought, Get Fund was supposed to pay, Get Fund didn't pay. Meanwhile, the finance officer keeps reporting huge surpluses on our account.
I see.
So if we have money, why don't you pay? You keep piling this interest. The interest alone on these two vehicles, 198,000 cedis. And you come to the board to seek approval. And the board says, take the money, go and pay.
Right.
Is this no financial loss?
Right, Adam. So if he doesn't return the money, if he doesn't return the car, what next action would Polytechnic Teachers Association POTAC take?
Well, I think the challenge is up to the Ministry of Education, and the challenge is up to the presidency. The president should walk the talk. He said nobody should take government vehicles home. So if today our rector is special in this, he wants to take it, so be it. Then we know the government is not being serious with what he says. That's all.
Right.
We will sit back and do our work.
Right. Adam, we're grateful for your time here on today's big story. And Charles Opoku here, I'll quickly wrap up with you. We've spoken about the economy. We've spoken about how IMF partnership is likely to affect jobs. And now there's corruption coming in. Your final remarks.
That is what I said, that it appears that as a country, we have been consistently inconsistent with what we do.
We've been messing up for a long time.
We've been messing up. And I think that this issue should be a challenge to the government. And for that matter, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the President of Ghana, to take it up. If it is true that no one should take away his car when he's leaving, then this man, I pray that he will not take the car away.
Right, otherwise there's going to be trouble.
Yes.
I'm very grateful, Charles Opoku, for your time, and grateful to all of you for making time with us on today's big story. We'll be right back with the interactive segment. Do stay.